Oh, okay. Are we ready? Yep. All right, we will go ahead and call the Becker City Council of January 18th, 2022 to order. If you'll rise, if you're able, and join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Has council had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes from January 4th? If so, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any changes to this evening's agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the set agenda.
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Those in favor may state aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Guests in open forum. This evening, we have our annual report from the Sherburne County Attorney's Office. Ms. Kathleen Heaney, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As you just said, my name is Kathleen Heaney. I'm the Sherburne County Attorney, and I'm very pleased to report, again, on an annual basis, on the contract that we hold for the city for prosecution of petty misdemeanors, misdemeanors, and gross misdemeanors. I would be remiss, however, if I didn't actually start this by thanking the chief and his crew. It is wonderful to be able to report back to the level of collaboration that I see between our law enforcement agencies and how they work together and strive to always provide the highest level of service. And I think that that should be noted and commended. So, Chief, thank you. As you're aware, last year in 2021, what happens for payment for our services is that we get the 1/3 portion of the prosecutorial piece of the fine. And so last year we handled in the court 717 cases on behalf of the city. And those would be the petty misdemeanors and the misdemeanors. In return, we received fines in the sum of $11,717.73. When we provide those services and those case numbers, please note that the case numbers don't reflect all of the tickets and citations that are written by law enforcement within the city. It only reflects those cases that actually, where they open up or they may contest, like a speeding case, or it might be a DWI or a domestic. Those are the case numbers that I'm reflecting. So if you see a difference between myself and law enforcement, that will explain the differences. One of the things that I wanted to bring to your attention, as of January 1st of this year, there was legislation that was introduced that identified that you can certify a conviction against a record if a person has a speeding ticket, but you may no longer ask for, they call it certify and suspend, suspension of the license for non-payment of the fee. So what that means is that we may be seeing a decrease in the fine revenue coming through this next year, and that may impact how the contract is handled by our office. I wanted to bring that to your attention because that just went into effect. The chief has probably already told you about that, but that's something that we will continue to be monitoring. Outside of the contract, the city of Becker did send us 48 cases that were looked at as felony charges. They also sent us 43 gross misdemeanor referrals as well. And that again was for the year 2021. One of the things I would like to bring to your attention too is in terms of controlled substance cases, the drug of choice that we're seeing most often for the controlled substance is methamphetamine. But we're also seeing fentanyl and its analogs, sometimes referred to as synthetic opioids. One of the things that I've asked our legislative delegation is to look at legislation that would lower the thresholds in terms of what we're able to charge for the synthetic opioids. So if you hear conversations regarding that, that is a conversation that I am having with our legislative body. And if you have any questions regarding that, please let me know. I'd be happy to answer.
Can I ask you one right now?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain that a little bit again? I didn't.
The thresholds?
Yeah, lowering the threshold of the crime or lowering the threshold of?
The amount that's needed to charge. Thank you. Actually, that was a great clarification. I really appreciate that. Fentanyl, as you're aware, is very potent. I mean, it's lethal and it's cheap. And so what it's happening is we're seeing it being used to cut other drugs such as heroin. And because of that, what I would like to see happen is that the legislature take the initiative that it would lower the amount necessary for charging for like a first-degree controlled substance or a second-degree controlled substance. So thank you for that clarification. That was very helpful. That's kind of a wrap-up of what's been happening, other than the fact that we're dealing with the backlog from the courts from COVID, and I have now passed my 4 minutes. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
All right. Does council have any questions for?
No, she answered mine, so.
Yeah, I got just one. So as we've seen in maybe other jurisdictions in the state, there's been maybe a deterioration in, you know, what people are getting charged and convicted for, things like that. We're not seeing that here. And can you maybe explain maybe your philosophy or kind of why we're not seeing that here? And it's very encouraging. So.
Well, I've been in office now for 19 years as the county attorney, and I will not make any broad pronouncements that if you find drugs in a traffic stop, we're not going to charge you. That's not going to happen out of my office as long as I sit in the seat. We have had, because of COVID, I mean, some of the tools that we've had for sentencing have been unavailable to us. For example, sentence to serve. That's not been a program that's been available to us through the COVID times. Or, you know, sometimes we have had different types of sentencing where people would serve weekends. Because of COVID, we haven't always had that opportunity. But we're not rolling back on in terms of how we're charging or how our dispositions are. I know that there's been some pressure for us to try and move cases more quickly and wholesale. And I can tell you that that's not going to happen when I'm sitting in the chair. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you had nothing else for me, I'm now at 7 minutes.
Well, we appreciate you recognizing our department as well, so thank you for
Yes.
coming out and giving us a year-end review as well. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Anyone else for guests in open forum? Seeing none, we will move into committee reports. EDA.
EDA met last Monday. We talked a bit about the low inventory of homes for sale in our area. At that time, there were only 3 pre-owned homes that did not have offers on them in the 55308 area code. And Andy talked about that interest rates are likely to increase too on mortgages. Marie shared that there's some interest in the lot on Highway 10 down towards McDonald's. We will see where that goes. We reviewed a spreadsheet that Marie made showing how many acres we will need to develop to replace Sherco's contribution to our tax dollars. And we talked a bit about the 212 acres that we're purchasing and other areas that may develop into housing or may develop into solar. And that was about all.
All right. Public Works.
Public Works, we discussed snow removal at the fire station. The street department is gonna make a proposal to the fire department for doing their snow removal, being as they're over there anyway. And that'll come forward as time goes on. We had a discussion on driveway widths, so the driveway aprons, the violations of the code, and the Public Works wants to know a direction to go on that. So we recommended they send what they're looking at doing to Planning Commission, and then if necessary, come to the council.
Let me guess, chapter 11.
Yeah. I didn't want to say that. I was trying to avoid that. But anyway, so that will go to Public Works first and then maybe come to the council. Because they're looking for a process to proceed. And we discussed a little bit about utility lights, street lights operation, and I'm just going to leave it at that. That's basically it.
All right. In personnel, we discussed a few items that are on this evening's consent agenda in regards to comp time for the Public Works area. We have one lead individual who, when in his contract, it states that all comp time must be used by December 31st. Well, a lot of times a snow event will happen leading into that date, and then therefore they lose that comp time. So we've made the recommendation just to adjust it to October, so he would actually follow the same as our seasonal golf individuals with comp time usage. And then also leave without pay request, that policy is being adjusted so that that request can only be granted after their PTO has been exhausted. A lot of times what would happen is they would just start banking their PTO so that when they would leave, it would be a payout and they would take non-pay at the time. But changing the policy allows like our liability of that bank to decrease a little bit and for that employee then to make that decision if they would like to request leave without pay. And then we also are implementing this per statute to allow paid time for mothers that are within nursing mothers. So that's just right from the state into our policy. So those are on the consent agenda, but if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer those.
So this is like, what do you call it? When somebody has a child, they get time off? Is that what we're talking about?
No, they are allowed a private area within their paid time to go and express.
Do they also get like the 6 weeks?
Oh, that's like FMLA, that's like short-term disability, that's completely different. This is
like
when they
15
return to work. They get, it's encouraged that they use their break time to,
And that we provide a place for them?
yes. Yep. All right, any other committee reports that we, no? All right, consent agenda. Consent agenda, as noted, has a couple of the personnel issues in it. It also has the 2022 pay equity report submission with all classes and genders. It's just what we typically do every year to make sure that we meet all those guidelines. The waiver of statutory tort liability limits is also in there, and we agree not to waive the monetary limits. And then partial pays for the Pebble Creek Clubhouse Simulator project, as well as the new well house over out that way. I'm forgetting what road it is. 24, thank you. And then personnel policy, it looks like there's a hiring and termination reports. So, oh, and, sorry, and on the revised one, there is the acceptance of the donation from the Becker's Lions Club in regards to $6,000 for their continued support of the Snuffy's Landing, which is much appreciated. So, I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I have one question. What's the time factor on the well house as far as completion?
The men from behind the curtain. I feel like it was just like The Price is Right. It totally just came right out.
Cute.
Yeah.
You guys are good. Right now, we're waiting on a few components to finish the weathering it in, and the components inside. They just did a walkthrough last week on all the telemetry inside, so we're anticipating about 2 to 3 months on the far side to have that project completely wrapped up, and the wells into production, and the water being part of our full loop water system.
I was just popped into my head all of a sudden. I'm just curious because we've had these partial payments and.
Yes, we want the system fully operational long before we hit the peak watering season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions for staff? Otherwise, I'll look for a
I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion from Mike, second from Robin. Those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Payment of the bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Second?
Motion from Robin, second from Rick. Any discussion on those? Hearing none, those in favor can state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Does council have anything else for the betterment of Becker? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So move we adjourn?
Second that.
Motion from Mike, second from Rick. Those in favor to adjourn may state aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:15.